The sky is quiet, too quiet. There are no jets cutting through the clouds, no columns of soldiers moving through dust and smoke, no shouted commands carried by the wind. There is only a faint electric hum, barely audible at first, like insects gathering somewhere above your head. You look up, and slowly the realization settles in. The battlefield is no longer human. This is not science fiction, and it is not a distant future. This is a question the world is already drifting toward, one decision at a time. What if drone swarms replaced human soldiers? Imagine a moment when governments quietly cross a line they have been approaching for years. No more large infantry deployments. No more young men and women sent into cities, forests, and deserts with rifles and orders they may not survive. Instead, war is fought by machines. Autonomous drone swarms launched from ships far at sea, from trucks hidden in warehouses, from underground silos, from aircraft carriers beyond the horizon. Thousands of small machines rise into the air at once. Each one is cheap, replaceable, and expendable. But together they become something entirely new. A thinking cloud. A weapon that is no longer individual, but collective. This is the world of the drone swarm. Not a single weapon, but a system. Each drone is a node in a living network, constantly communicating, constantly adapting. There is no single leader drone to destroy, no central brain to target. Intelligence is distributed across the swarm itself. When one drone is destroyed, the others adjust their paths instantly. When communication is jammed, they switch frequencies or operate independently. When the environment changes, the swarm reorganizes itself in real time. Some drones scout ahead, mapping terrain and identifying heat signatures. Others jam radar and communication signals. Some carry explosives no larger than a grenade. Others carry nothing at all except sensors and code. They see heat through walls. They detect movement in darkness. They track radio signals, vehicles, even heartbeats. They do not panic. They do not hesitate. They do not disobey orders because of fear or conscience. They simply execute. What makes drone swarms different is not raw power, but scale and coordination. Traditional weapons rely on precision, on hitting specific targets with overwhelming force. Swarms rely on saturation. There are too many to stop. Missiles are too expensive to waste on tiny machines. Bullets are too slow. Electronic warfare works until the swarm adapts, reroutes, and keeps coming. A human platoon reacts in seconds. A drone swarm reacts in milliseconds. Humans get tired. Machines do not. Humans need food rest and medical evacuation. Drones need power and little else. History shows that war has always moved in this direction. Distance, detachment, efficiency. Archers replaced swords, allowing killing from afar. Cannons replaced castles, making walls obsolete. Aircraft replaced cavalry. Missiles replaced bombers. With each shift, the attacker became more removed from the act of killing. Drone swarms would complete that arc. For the first time in history, war could be fought with almost no physical risk to the side initiating it. And that single fact would change everything. Human soldiers bring adaptability, judgment, and moral reasoning to the battlefield. They also bring fear, exhaustion, trauma, and doubt. Drone swarms bring speed, endurance, and coordination on a scale no human unit can match. But they lack empathy. They lack hesitation. They lack an internal sense of when enough is enough. A human soldier might pause when civilians appear, might question an order in the chaos of the moment. A drone swarm executes its parameters unless explicitly told otherwise. And programming morality is not the same as possessing it. At first, the transition feels reasonable. Militaries adopt drone swarms for limited roles: border surveillance, base defense, targeted strikes. Human oversight remains firmly in place, at least on paper. Politicians praise the reduction in casualties. Generals praise the efficiency. The public, weary of endless wars and body counts, supports the shift. War becomes quieter, cleaner, easier to ignore. There are no flag-draped coffins returning home, no veterans with visible wounds standing as reminders of the cost. Conflict begins to feel distant, abstract, manageable. Then something subtle begins to change. Because no soldiers or dying, leaders become more willing to use force. Military action no longer feels like a last resort. It becomes a policy option. A swarm is deployed here to send a message. Another is launched there to disrupt an adversary. Conflicts multiply not because the world has become more violent, but because violence has become easier to justify. The political cost of war drops, and history shows that when the cost drops, usage rises. As adversaries adopt swarms of their own, speed becomes everything. Enemy drones move too quickly for human decision-making loops. Defensive systems must respond instantly or fail. To keep up, autonomy increases. Algorithms are allowed to select targets, to engage, to escalate, at first only in emergencies, then in predefined scenarios, eventually by default. Human oversight remains in theory, but in practice, machines are making life-and-death decisions faster than humans can intervene. Drone swarms are not rare, expensive platforms like fighter jets or aircraft carriers. They are relatively cheap. That means they spread. Nation-states build them, then corporations, then non-state actors. A technology once reserved for superpowers becomes accessible to anyone with money code and manufacturing capacity. A swarm does not need an air force. It does not need a navy. It fits in a shipping container, or the back of a truck, or a basement workshop. The barrier to entry for warfare collapses. Traditional war has front lines. Drone swarms erase them. Cities become battlefields. Infrastructure becomes a target. Power grids, communication hubs, transportation networks. A swarm does not occupy territory. It denies functionality. Lights go out, networks fail, movement stops, and it can happen without a single human crossing a border. War no longer announces itself with tanks rolling in. It arrives silently from above, from nowhere, all at once. Then comes the question no one wants to answer. Responsibility. When a human soldier commits a war crime, responsibility is clear. There is a chain of command. There are individuals who can be held accountable. But when an autonomous swarm misidentifies a target, is it the programmer who wrote the code, the commander who deployed the system, the politician who authorized its use, or the machine itself? Responsibility diffuses just like the swarm. Accountability becomes harder to assign, easier to avoid. And history shows that when accountability disappears, abuse follows. There is another consequence that is harder to measure. Human soldiers carry the memory of war. They tell stories. They bear scars. They return home changed, reminding society what violence costs.